What's up, Internet? Jeff Gredler here, head brand ambassador at Spiceworks. Thanks for joining us today on this 20th anniversary podcast series. Today, we're talking to Greg Kattawar. As a co-founder and EVP of Development and Engineering, Greg was the steady hand on the rudder who scaled the Spiceworks engine from a scrappy Austin startup to the global powerhouse. Today, we're talking to the man who built the teams and the tech that transformed how IT professionals connect across the world. So without further ado, here's Greg. Boss.
Hey,
how are you doing, man? Great to see you.
You too, man. Your hair.
I know it's been a minute.
A few minutes.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for coming on, man. It just really, it's really just blew my mind that we were talking about this, that it's been 20 years. 20 years.
It's been that long?
Yeah, 20 years back in. So, trying to put the pieces together, it looks like you guys incorporated back in January 2006.
Yep.
So that was around there. What are your memories of that starting back in 2006? Like, Scott had his memories of what this was when he went to you, but what are your memories of this?
Well, we did a lot of brainstorming on ideas for months, like before that, like 6 months before that. We would meet with Scott and Jay and Francis and I. We'd kind of just, any idea was a good idea, and we would just kind of beat it down or not. And this one kind of came to the Spiceworks kind of surfaced somewhat because we all already knew a fair amount about it. Like, it wasn't like some brand new space that we didn't understand at some level. And then I kind of remember Jay. I think Jay was the main person who came up with the do it for free approach.
Yeah.
At least that's what I remember. I'm not 100% sure because some of the stuff happened kind of quick. Well, actually, everything happened kind of quick. But he had the advertising thing and the business model thing,
right,
which was definitely a unique twist on the idea. And I don't think the VCs, the venture capital folks, I don't think they really loved that idea at the beginning. I remember they kept bringing up, well, you should charge for it, you should charge for it, you should charge for it, because that brings in some revenue.
Right.
And the advertising model, it's not that I don't think they believed in it or not. It was more of, it's going to take longer to see if that works. Like, it's a longer road.
Right.
Because you got to get critical mass for that to even have a chance. And so early on, even though you think it might be working, if you don't reach critical mass, it's not going to play out well for you.
Yeah.
I kind of remember Jay coming up with the unique business model approach, and we were like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And he kind of pushed it through over the end zone there.
It seems a little bit more. In 2006, I don't think it really was a way bigger leap of faith than you would say now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it was a way bigger leap of faith. So,
and Sugar, I think there was a company called Sugar CRM that had launched a little before us, and they kind of did something in that quadrant.
Okay.
But I don't think it was exactly the same. And it was a unique idea for sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't obvious it was going to work. It definitely wasn't. Yeah.
Do you have that moment? And I think this would be around July when that first download pushed out. Like, do you have that recollection of what you were doing when all of a sudden you saw these downloads starting to fly through?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do remember. There was a board meeting with John Thornton, who was the lead VC. I think it was the day after. It was the morning after we launched. Not in the morning. It was like at noon or something. After we had launched the very first deployment. And I remember thinking we were going to be happy if we could get like 200 people to download anything. Like 100 would have been okay, and 200 would have been really good. And I think our max we had even thought about was 500, like even considered. And that first board meeting, which I think was the next day, we had, I want to say it was close to 5,000. I mean, it was in the thousands for sure.
Wow.
I want to say close to 5,000. So it was like 10x bigger than the biggest number we had considered. And I was kind of giddy because it had worked. Nothing had crashed. And then I remember Thornton telling me in the meeting, well, we got a long ways to go. Don't get too excited.
That's awesome. But at that moment, you had that kind of that payoff of the leap of faith because, Scott and Francis and Jay, when I was talking to them about this as well, you guys had a very strict, what came to be the no a-hole policy, right? Of just like you wanted to work with people that you enjoyed spending time with, and you were going to be very stringent on it. And it changed the culture of Austin. Like I said, it didn't just change Spiceworks culture. I think it resonated throughout Austin, anyone who ever worked at Spiceworks. So when you had that first wave of engineers, what was that non-negotiable trait that you looked for? Because I remember sitting with each one of you guys, and you each had a very specific model when it came to interviewing. What was your non-negotiable trait when it came to hiring that first wave of engineers?
I'll broaden the question just a little bit. I kind of had three things that I had to get through in all the interviews, or otherwise I'd have to do it again. And you could call those non-negotiable. One was, can they think through a problem out loud and communicate it to me?
Okay.
So I gave them some random problem, and they had to think through it and communicate it. They had to do both to me. And the second was, coding up. They had to code some problem. They didn't know what was coming. They had to code on the fly, like on a board. Like I'd always make them do it on a whiteboard. And the third, which is a little closer to what you're asking, I think, is I would ask them, what's the biggest mistake you've made professionally? And the goal of that is to get someone to be critical of themselves and be a little introspective, and or do they think they're perfect? And there are literally people that don't think they've ever made a mistake in their life. And I'm talking about just professionally.
Right, yeah.
And they think everything is someone else's fault, which is kind of where that's the road you go down.
Right.
And if someone couldn't come up with something in about 10 or 15 seconds, it was that was kind of a done. And it didn't really matter how well they did on the other things, because if you think you're right every time and professionally you've never made a mistake, you're probably not a great, probably not going to be a great turnout for everybody.
Great fit. And I can verify that's exactly what you did, because I did sit with you through the interview process, but I was working there probably about a week, and this was in 2011, and I went down the street to get a sandwich at Jersey Mike's. You happened to be in line. I'm like, oh, hey, Greg. And you started asking me similar questions to the interview. It was like, hey, we're looking at this product. Do you think this is going to work? And then I was like, oh man, he's still making sure. It's like, are you sure you hired the right guy? I was like, so I verify you definitely did that.
Yeah.
That was your methodology. So
I did it a few thousand times. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went through, I was thinking about that the other day of how many people went through the Spiceworks system. I mean, it's over 1,000 now, right?
Oh, yeah, way over.
Yeah. And then you see these clusters now starting up at different companies, where they're on LinkedIn, and they're taking the culture that you guys helped build, and they're trying to start it in other companies. Like everybody's, what we used to call them, wrestling, chasing the dragon. We're trying to get that feeling back again. So,
and I think, Jeff, one of the things I think is kind of important is a lot of people believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like people like, whoa, what are you talking about? It was more of, do you believe in it enough to enforce it?
Yes.
And use it as a guiding principle for all your hiring, no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of not just do you care, it's how much do you care?
Yeah. And you're right. And it became just like, it shouldn't have to be something that was policed by you guys, right? The leaders. It should be, everybody should be along. And it worked very well. It worked very well.
Yeah, and it goes into the hiring is the most important thing you do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've learned that time and time again. And I remember for a while, I was doing 10 to 15 interviews a week. And I wasn't even on the front line. I was like one wave down. Right. And I was doing over 10 a week.
Oh, wow.
For a long time.
Well, it worked, Greg, because I can tell you, I'm sharing all these memories I have because it's been a big part of my life as well. I remember working out on the parking garage together, with you kind of the leader, like you were running in the pack, but I was like, this is crazy. We have salespeople, marketing people, development people, technology people, all running, and you were running a lap with them on that. I was just like, you brought all these people together, which normally wouldn't happen, right? Like you would have these cliques in this office, but Spiceworks, everybody was just like, that was, to me, encompassed everybody coming together, that you were literally leading the charge of a sprint, a physical sprint.
There's a lot of good teamwork involved.
Yeah,
sure.
It was great memories. Let's talk a little bit about the scaling up pain, right? Because, every startup, there's a wall where just like, this is the critical mass is starting to grow. Was there any specific crash or something, or do you remember that you realize, is the app going to be able to keep up with the demand?
Yeah, well, related to that, the one thing that sticks out in my mind was our deployment. I'd call it the deployment process. And, early on, you're just trying to find a way to get something out that runs. Like, just, can you get something out that works?
Right.
And if there's manual steps that a human has to perform, that's okay. And we did that for a pretty good while. And it wasn't too complicated, but the more things you add, the more complicated that gets. And it's more manual steps that a human has to perform. And eventually it gets to where the human makes mistakes just because there's 300 steps and you mistyped one thing on one step and now it's a bad scene.
Right.
And I remember it used to only take 5 or 10 minutes to do a deployment. And then I remember going into a room and helping Dave Rathman, because we had kind of transitioned to Dave doing the deployments.
Right.
And he used to shut the door, turn the lights off. He didn't want anyone to talk to, no noise, dead silence. And we get in his office, and I remember one deployment, I was helping him do some things. And, it took well over an hour. I mean, hell, it might have been 2 hours. And I just remember looking at all the steps he was having to go through and how precise, everything has to be exactly right or it's messed up.
Right.
And after that deployment, he made a mistake somewhere in the middle, like something was not quite in the right order. And he had to unwind a bunch of things and redo it all. I mean, it took a long time. And I remember after that session going, we've got to automate this stuff. Like this isn't going to work anymore. Like we're already past the red zone.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into what we talked about. I wanted to ask you about, like, how did you decide when it was time, like, just get it out, just push it out, don't worry about the polish, just get it going? Like, how did you find that balance?
Yeah, that's a tough question because, there's always pressure to do more and get more out right now, whatever now means. And versus I've got something working, let's get it out.
Yeah.
And so the thing I kind of learned over time, and I'd say I learned a lot of this at Spiceworks, was I would ask the question of the team, is what we have better than what's already out there? And if they could say, yes, this is better than what's out there, then that's a step in the right direction. And I would generally say, all right, let's just go with it.
Right.
Even though it wasn't perfect, even though there was more you could add to it, it's better than what's out there, and better means better for our users. And so we generally would try to always put the users first. And if we thought it would make a material impact in a positive way on the user experience, the answer would be, and I don't mean UI stuff, it could be functionality. The answer would be yes, let's push it. And I think most of the time we would tend to push things. And, the worst case is you have to go fix something. And back then we could fix things pretty quick.
Yeah.
We could roll it out pretty quick, especially when we automated the deployment process. That was a zinger. And that worked pretty well for us. But, sometimes the answer was, if they had to think real hard, is it really better? And it wasn't an obvious answer, then we would kind of wait and fix some more stuff or add a few more things so that the answer was kind of obvious, it's better. Because, a lot of the deployments or releases, someone's guessing at what they think that needs to be, could have been months ahead of time. And so it's not like that's some exact science. There's some guesswork there. And, if it's better, I'd say push it. Yeah.
And it's great to think, and I think that has a lot to do with the success of Spiceworks because of the fail fast, fail cheap, because we know the analysis paralysis, right? Like you can just sit
Mhm.
there and tremble and just like wait to do it. And then nothing's ever going to happen where you were
Right.
taking these leaps of faith. Like, let's just get it out there and we're going to be the ability to fix it. And it did. I
Yep.
remember it's just like, there was a lot of those moments. You're like, it always worked out fine. It got to the point where we almost trained our community that we're going to do this and you're going to work with us to let us know that when there's a problem, right? And
Yeah, that's a good point. Making the users part of the process,
yeah,
I think it buys you a lot of goodwill with people. And as long as you communicate transparently what's going on and why, most people are more than reasonable.
Yeah.
And if you include them in the process, that's like in fact, you probably end up getting bonus points by doing that in the long run.
I think so.
We had a lot of users. We had a lot of times where we'd roll something out and a user would use something in some strange way that we didn't test because we didn't even think of it. And we would just make them part of the fix process. And
right.
I think it worked damn near 100% of the time.
It pretty much just birthed the community, right? That started off as like the feature request and when you give a voice to the voiceless and you empower your community.
Yeah.
And I think that's why 20 years later, the community is still as vibrant as ever because of that. What are your first memories? Because, obviously, especially with you and Francis, you were kind of like the architects and the engineers of going. What was your first feeling when you saw, wait a minute, we have these cluster of community users coming together and now we have something vibrant? What was your first moment? You're like, whoa, this community is a thing too now, just beyond the app.
Yeah. I think Tabrez, he was pushing the community thing the most. And we always knew, I think it was a good kind of side hustle, might be a way to say it.
Yeah.
We didn't know it was going to be the main thing. And I think when we saw how much community traffic started grew significantly faster than everything else. And I think when we saw how fast that was growing, that's when we kind of realized, wait a minute, the community is probably bigger than the app part.
Yeah.
And I think if you could go back and start over, would you do things in a different order? I don't know. I don't know if I would, because the dynamics are, you have to have something to attract the people first, and then once they got in there, then the community's like, there's got to be a seed to get the community going.
Yeah.
And I think if we had started with the community without the app, I don't know if it would have worked, because there were already IT communities out there. They just weren't. They never got to mass.
Yeah.
And I think the app kind of got a lot of people started in there, and then it kind of took off. At least that's what I think.
No, I think you're right. I think that was the common denominator, right? Of just like they almost had this cause to rally, which was our legacy app, that brought them together, and then start talking about the other things. And again, like you said, giving them a voice, almost a seat at the table, which the community members always had a seat at the table. We weren't doing anything that wasn't putting them first, right? That was what your whole mission was. Like we were talking about this with Francis, of the four of you showing up at, an IT professional's office, knocking on the door, and people almost being surprised, like, why do you want to talk to them? It's like, we always putting the IT professionals first. And that's got to mean something for you, especially with you leading, many, many engineering teams and working with tech. That had to feel pretty special to you, yeah?
Yeah, it did. And I think, I don't want to be overly dramatic about it, but I just see how much effort, I'll just say technical people, and IT is a technical person.
Yeah.
How much effort and energy and education and research goes into everything they do, and they get very little credit for it, like not a lot. And because I think a lot of people take it for granted, and you see how much work they put in on things, and it's just, it's amazing. And, I think having them be the spotlight of the company, literally, it was really special, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think, one other thing I'll add, I think if we had charged money early on, I don't know if this would have worked because the adoption would have been so much less. You might not have reached that critical mass point.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. That was the leap of faith we were talking about,
right.
To the point where now, and this year is going to be number 19. It created Spice World, right? It created this event now where a community of introverted technology professionals coming together to party and learn. We're still going. What are your first early memories of those early Spice Worlds? Of like, did you think it was going to work? You're like, let's see what happens. What were your early memories on those original Spice Worlds?
Yeah, I guess the memories I have of it were a few that are notable. One, the first Spice World, it wasn't clear how many people were even going to come to the thing. Like it wasn't obvious. And, you don't want to have a conference with 10 people. I mean, that's kind of a waste. But we started doing some of those remote ones, and even the remote ones were well attended. It was hundreds, if not thousands. And, Scott Scott's a really good presenter. At least I think he's a really good presenter.
He is.
And his attention to detail is 10x what mine is, or Francis's is, or Jay's is. And so doing those Spice Worlds, the presentation part of it, when Scott got to look at something, you were going to be changing things. Like you think you're done, but you're not really done because Scott, you haven't gone through the Scott gate yet. And he would make aesthetic changes, and even some of the data, like a lot of the demos and stuff. It was just a lot of the things I would worry about is this going to work? A lot of the demos, the data matters, and so we would put data in the demo. And get it all configured right so that when he ran it, or when one of us would run it, it would all there'd be good data there. And Scott would look at some of the data and go, well, that's not going to work. And he'd have reasons why he didn't think the data was the best data to put in there. And you'd go change it, and then you'd change things and maybe break something along the way, and then fix it and do it again. And so we tried to get that done as early as we could, but it was always a bit of a mad rush right up to the night before. And I just remember literally midnight the night before the Spice World presentation, I'd be going through the demo and walking through the data to make sure everything looked, the way it was supposed to look.
Yeah.
And work the way it's supposed to work.
And presenting in front of people who are normally even terrified to present, or sometimes even worse, having to support the people they're having to present, right? That was the audience, right? The IT professionals, like, we need your help in the conference room. And you walk in there and there's hundreds of people there and just like, can you get this working? That's who you're presenting.
Yeah, if there was a network problem, it got fixed quick. Yeah, exactly. That was one thing I didn't really worry about because we had a lot of people that were really good at that kind of stuff for sure. Yeah.
No, for sure. And again, the hiring process that you guys had was top notch because again, these guys all went on to be leaders in other companies.
Yep.
So what are some of your good memories of those early days in the office when you had that first moment of just like moving from working in, the real estate office to all of a sudden now you have a full office? What are your memories of some of those early offices?
Yeah, the first office I think was on Mountain Ridge. It was kind of in a heavily wooded area, so it had a lot of shade, which was great in the summer because it wasn't quite as hot. But right. The heating wasn't great, and in fact, I think I still have pictures of this because we took pictures of it. We'd have the whole team there working all night. 24 hours straight, and at night, the building, the heat would shut off like at 7 or something.
Oh, wow.
Something around 7. The heat would shut off, and by midnight, that building was freezing. And for a while, we didn't have a way to turn the heat, get the heat on. And we had people wearing 2 coats, hoodie, gloves. And I remember Connie was wrapped in bubble wrap. She didn't have enough coats, so she had a coat and bubble wrap wrapped around her, was holding like that. And yeah, it got kind of tough there at night because they didn't have a way for us to turn the heat on. And then we raised the problem to the management folks, and they didn't want to allow us to turn the heat on for the whole building because it's kind of wasteful.
Yeah.
We just wanted to do it for our office.
Right.
They didn't initially. They didn't have a way to do that, so we had to. They fixed it, but it took a while.
It took.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, and then you moved down. We moved down the street, right, to that office that was 2222 was the next office there, and that's when I started.
Yeah, that was a real office. Everything worked there. Yeah, that was much nicer. Yeah.
I mean, I got lucky enough to start at the company right around sysadmin day, where you celebrate IT professionals in the office. I was just like, wait, why are everybody coming up and talking to us and saying thank you and congrats? I was so stunned. And also the salsa contest at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was like, this place is incredible. I remember I was like, you're not going to believe what I did today.
Yeah, IT guys they're at the top of the heap at Spiceworks.
Yeah, it was just I've never again, and it's probably why I've still been here. 15 years later, it's like, where can you go where the IT professional is really considered like a hero of the businesses rather than just a cost center, right? Because I think at other companies you look at it as a cost center. And I remember Jay telling me once, like, don't ever look at yourself like that. Don't ever look at yourself like that, because there's no company that's going to run without that. And I was just like, it really opened my eyes to, wow, Spiceworks is no joke. These guys really do care. And I think that showed in the product.
Yeah, Jeff, another thing I'll add, and it kind of goes to the business model thing that Jay kind of set in motion early on. The fact that everything was free, it wasn't a nice to have, it was a must have. Like, if you don't get users to love using your product or your community, the community and the product to me are all the same, kind of the same thing.
Exactly.
But when it's free, it's easy for people to leave. Like, they don't have a whole lot of skin in the game and they can just leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so when things are free, it kind of forces you to like really put the user first in everything you do. Because if you don't, they're going to leave.
Right.
And now you're not getting anything. And I think it was probably a healthy thing for the company to have that be the business model, because that permeated every department in the company.
Yeah. No, it 100% did. Everybody knew the mission of the company, no matter whether you're in marketing or were you working at the front. Everybody knew what the mission was of the company, and I think that went a long way. So, and then as the company grew, right, it started growing fast, and you had to grow more into even more of the management and leader or mentorship. What was the hardest part of letting go of the code, like you said, when you passed it over to Super Dave and let him do it? What was the hardest part of letting go of the code and starting focusing on the people at the company?
Yeah, well, I wasn't really coding at the beginning. I was actually one of my early roles was I was like the lead test person. So I was kind of the final gate before things got deployed. That's why I was involved in the deployment process early on. I think, to me, this is related to your question. To me, the big thing is if you want to get people or more people to think and do things the way you think is right, then you have to have interaction and touch them in some way in meetings or work sessions or stand-ups or whatever it is. You've got to interact with them one-on-one to get them to think a little different, because not everybody so a lot of the people we hired were real junior out of school. Like they didn't know how to think.
Right.
and so I think as soon as you kind of accept that it's better for the company for me to scale myself by influencing 50 people or 100 people or 200 or whatever the number is, it's a large number. But if I can influence 50 or 100 or 200 people, that will benefit the company more than if I do more stuff myself.
Right.
Because that's like one.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to warm up to that influencing others is a more scalable way to benefit the company.
Yeah, and I remember intern season at Spiceworks. It was no joke. You'd have a flock of people coming in.
Oh yeah.
And now, like I said, the years later, they're probably leading teams of their own. But
Oh yeah.
but early on, they were just walk in, and it was just like, and you guys got them through the ropes really quick. That always stuck with me, that hiring process of just like, you know what, if you just get somebody that has enough of the aptitude that understands what we're going to do, you're not going to be bringing in a lot of bad habits, because now they're looking to you and they want to sponge and they want to learn.
Yep.
And you guys were always great about that. Like, the door was always open for you to mentor and lead. And to this day, I think a lot of people take a lot of the qualities that you taught them, and now are leading other companies.
Yeah, a lot of the intern process, which is how we ended up. That's materially how we solved our growth problem, was going through getting interns through the system. And we quickly learned you can't try to get them when they're seniors. You got to get them when they're like freshmen and sophomores, and then work them through the system, and then you hire them when they graduate.
Yeah,
that worked really well.
It did. And
you get some extremely talented people that way that are young. I mean, you got to teach them a lot, but they're really talented. And, the only downside to it is if they leave after 2 years or something, you're like, oh gosh, they learned a whole lot from us. And now they took it somewhere else, which is kind of your point. They were real successful somewhere else, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So having a lot of those, like, early on, like, younger tenured engineers, how did you teach them to deal with the pressure? Like a Spiceworld presentation, right? It's just like, okay, we have to have this new feature ready for Spiceworld. How did you teach them to deal with that pressure that it sounds like you already found a way to deal with?
Yeah, and there's kind of, I'll just break it up. There's two components, at least my view of. There's two components. And there's usually a demo involved. At least the tough. If you're just presenting slides, that's different. But if there's a demo involved, which a lot of the technical people, they're doing a demo of something, and it's generally something new that hasn't been released yet. That's a little added pressure there. If they know about it well in advance, and they can plan for it well in advance, and they can get all the data in there well in advance, and they can go through it well in advance, it helps a lot. It's not the results aren't as good as if everything comes together on the last night. That's what happened really early on. Later, it got a little smoother. And then I think the second part of that is if they take ownership of it. So it's different if I tell you I'm doing the presentation, I need you to work on this, this, and this, and build it, get something built. You don't feel like you own it. But if you're the one presenting it, you're going to make damn sure that everything works right. Like, it'll be right. And I just remember when we made the decision to have the next layer of folks down do presentations at Spiceworld, dev managers and like lead developers and stuff. We hadn't done it before. It was usually one of us doing it. And when they took ownership of it, they did a really good job. I mean, really good. And I just remember being surprised at how well they did. And I remember the first couple years, I'd go to a lot of the ones the technical folks were presenting for, and I was there to help. Like, if they ever got stuck, I'd kind of step in and help talk through something for them. Yeah. Because it was more of a presentation problem, which is the second part, which is more of speaking in front of a large number of people, which is a different skill. 100%. And some of them are really good at it, and they get super nervous because they hadn't done it before, but they get up there and they do a great job, and they're really good at it. And we had a lot of that. I mean, I'd say that was the bulk of it. Every once in a while, someone would get overly nervous just because they hadn't done it before, and they're real young. Right. And one of us, Francis or I or someone would step in and kind of help to walk through something and try to make it look like nothing happened. It was all natural. And I can only think of one person that was not good at it, and they didn't want to do it again. But everyone else did a pretty darn good job, and they all wanted to do it again. So I was actually kind of surprised at how much the technical people liked doing the presentations, and I think the key component of that was that they took ownership of it. Yeah, and I think Scott and I were talking about this. You guys created an environment where it was safe to be wrong. It was safe to make a mistake, because that's always everyone's biggest flaw, right? Of that, they call it imposter syndrome now, to go up there and they think they're going to be wrong, like everybody's going to look at them. You guys
fostered an environment to get a bunch of introverted technology, like you said, people who work in the dark and just work with a keyboard to actually go up there and present. And you made them feel okay with that. And some of them thrived at that, right?
And you kind of have to, it kind of goes back to some of that interview question stuff we were talking about around, have you made a mistake before? And if you've already made mistakes before, and then the second part of that question is, what did you learn from it? So it's a two-part question. And having people that know that mistakes are made by humans, that's just part of the deal.
Right.
And it's not a big deal, and you learn from it and move on. Like, that was kind of the culture inside the company at every job. I mean, it could be in marketing, sales, engineering, IT. It could be in any part of the company. And when Spiceworld got bigger, the years later, we started getting community people to present. They were doing presentations, and they were really good. I mean, I don't know how much time they spent on them, but it was a lot, because those presentations were really well done.
Yeah.
I mean, it was impressive, really impressive.
And Jen told me to tell you hello. I was talking to Slasky yesterday, and she talked pretty much about that exactly, where she went in there very nervous of thinking, having everything buttoned. And she talked about like how you and Scott would put her out there and just like, you own this. We trust you. You put a lot of trust in there, and it built up her confidence now, where she did the closing keynote at Spiceworld this year and knocked everybody's socks off. I'll send you the link of that. It was just like, it just blew everybody away that so you, as you know, like you said, in technology and engineering, were influencing marketers.
Yeah.
And changing.
And I'll tell you, Jeff, the big thing that, it impacts every kind of person in every kind of job is ownership. I mean, if people take ownership of something, the result will be better 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And again, I have very fond memories of our Friday meetings, right, where everybody would come together and you learned what everybody else was working on. But I think that's where that ownership came in, because everybody would take turns to present something that was going on there. Was that kind of the idea? Because I remember when 3:00 came on Fridays, the energy was there. Like, okay, this is cool. Let's go have a drink. Let's go have some chips, and let's talk about what the company was doing. It never felt like a meeting. It felt more like a get together.
Yeah, the vibe was cool. It was a unique vibe because you were going to learn a lot of stuff about what's going on in the company that you might not know.
Yeah.
But it was a low pressure situation, and if someone made misspoke, it wasn't even a deal. Like, people would laugh and everybody just move on.
Right.
And I think part of it was because there were snacks, there were drinks. It was I don't want to say it was overly informal, but it was kind of informal.
Right.
And people didn't prepare that much for those. There was a little preparation, but not like a Spiceworld. Like those things got prepared months in advance.
Right.
But those Friday meetings, we started getting the developers, we had, I don't know who didn't present in those things. I mean, it was almost everybody at some point would present something.
Yeah.
And I just remember the thinking was that it goes back to that ownership thing. If they know they're going to be up there presenting stuff, they're going to feel a little more ownership, rather than me doing it. And Greg's presenting again. What the hell? It worked out really well, and I think it got things to come together a little quicker. So decisions didn't linger too long, because you'd have to get up and tell the company, we're doing this, and here it is.
Yeah.
And it's not maybe. Maybe wasn't going to fly. You had to kind of go. And it kind of put closure, things coming to a head. And a lot of that's a lot of decision making that has to take place behind the scenes. And when you're going to present it, you don't want to get up and say X, and then 2 weeks later, no, we changed our mind and we're going to say Y. Yeah, that's not great.
No, and it worked, and it was almost having like a weekly company kickoff or sales kickoff where I think everybody left energized, and that's saying something from you, because I don't know if you remember this. I remember this. You were very specifically anti-meeting. You were the one that would enforce, if you saw people sitting in the room and if it was more than 3 people, you would go in and just does this need to be a meeting? You were very anti-meeting. So for you to champion something like that, go somewhere. What was your thinking behind that? Just like, was it the whole, we need to move fast? Like, what was your
It was probably just two things. One was getting closure on things and knowing you were going to have to present stuff, and it kind of forces the decision to be made, which a lot of people don't see that stuff, but there's decisions that, like if you talk to four people, two people say, yeah, we made this decision, and two other people will say that were in the same room in the same meeting, they'll say, well, we talked about it, but they don't really say a decision got made. Well, presenting things in those meetings, I think it helped force us to get decisions made when they were supposed to be. Like, you knew everything you needed to know. There wasn't any more new information coming. It's just you got to move on. It's kind of just moving forward. And then the second thing, as the company got bigger, it was tough for other people that weren't involved in the product as much to know what was going on. And so I think having that communication across the departments helped a lot. And when you were real small, it wasn't as big a deal because you knew what was going on because the guy's sitting 5 feet from you.
Right.
You'd already know what he's doing.
Right.
So early on, it was probably less of the communication was less of a big deal. But as the company got larger, the communication piece was kind of a big deal, because what'll happen is someone will hear something that they didn't really know was going on, and they go, wait a minute, have they thought about blah?
Yeah.
And people were good. Some people would just ask the question in the meeting, which I thought was cool. And the presenter might not even, they have no answer, which is fine. It was all fine. You know, people laugh and move on.
Right.
But we'd write it down and take it back and go figure it out later.
Yeah. And I can tell you that we need more Greg Kattawar in 2026, because I think and when people started moving back to these home offices, I think sometimes they need meetings to justify their work. We need Greg popping in like, does this need to be happening right now?
Yeah. It's tough with the working from home thing, because I'm a fan of working at home.
Yeah.
But I think there's I call it a hybrid model, where you work at home a good chunk of the time and you go in some.
Right.
Probably mainly for meetings and sessions together with other people, because that's how you can be influenced a lot. Face to face more rubs off than over a Zoom call or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's just better. Yeah.
Yeah.
But working from home, there's advantages to working from home too. So I kind of like the hybrid model a lot.
I do too. I because you do miss what I call the chair spin effect, right? Where you just spin, especially in IT, you saw that we would spin around and talk to each other and work through a problem that we might get stuck in a vacuum trying to figure out at home by ourselves. So I do miss that chair spin. So, but see, as we get to wrap up here, Greg, speaking of 2026, if you were to do, and again, you're doing other stuff right now, if you were to start something in 2026, what would be that secret spice that you would use now at a startup, taking everything into account that you learned for the past 20 years?
Doing a startup now, I think it's fundamentally a little different.
Yeah.
I think AI has a big impact on things, mainly because, if you're starting from scratch, you can build native AI into products at the get-go. You don't have to try to add it later, which is I think it's a lot tougher. So I think AI can speed up some of that. Obviously, architecture, coding. I mean, some of the developers I know that use AI to help code, and it's not like you're having AI write all the code for you and you just put it in and hope it works. That's not even close to what happens. There's a whole lot of iterating that goes on and getting your model set up right. And you iterate long enough and you look at it yourself and make sure things look right to you, because at some point you're responsible for it. There's no AI responsible for anything. And you can get some really good results pretty rapidly once you get all that set up right, and you know how to use it right. It can make things go a lot quicker. You can be a lot more prolific, might be one way to say it.
Yeah.
One person can generate a lot more high quality code faster, is probably one way to say it. And I think the remote work model is probably set in stone pretty well, at least everywhere. Everybody I know does some flavor of a hybrid work model.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And I think materially that stuff works pretty well. And I think the employees are pretty happy with it. Like I haven't seen anybody that's like, oh, I can't stand doing this. there's some people that really want to be in the office every day, and I think if you have some way to make that happen, that's probably a bonus.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to, but it's probably a bonus because some people, they don't have a great work environment at home for a variety of reasons, and they just want to get away and work in an office. And
right.
I think having some way to do that's probably important as well. And I think, I think the VC community leans forward still a lot. So I think that part of doing a startup is still in place. I don't know if it's more or less than it was before. Feels similar to me. It feels about like a wash to me as far as how forward leaning they are to invest in things. But I think if you don't have a good AI story now, you're in trouble.
You need that.
You better have a good AI story, not just in your product, but how you're going to build it. Like you need both. Yeah,
no, that totally makes sense. So before we, of course, I did go to the community and I gathered a bunch of lightning round questions. We don't have to go through all of them, but go through some of them. But before we do that, yeah, they're fun ones. You're going to recognize them. We probably did those with Slasky after. But before we get into that, what's life been after the Spice for you? Like, after.
I like doing startups, obviously. So clearly that's the path. My career path is down the startup path. So I've done a couple more startups and one company, FinaPay, that wasn't really a startup, but we kind of redid a bunch of stuff so it felt like a startup.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm partially retired now, but I'm still working on one startup. Lolo Legacy is the startup I'm working at now. And
awesome.
So I'm still involved in the startup world, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I do it because I really enjoy it. I like creating things, both products and companies with people. I think that's really rewarding. And not every idea pans out, but you try them and try to make them work.
Yeah.
And I think with AI, all the AI stuff that's going on today, it's super interesting what you can do now. Like I really enjoy a lot of the AI work we're doing because it's new. To me, it's kind of new stuff. So that's kind of fun.
And you're good at it. It's similar to what we were talking about, Scott. Like I don't ever see, I think semi-retired is probably where the world needs Greg Kattawar, because you're good at this and we want you to keep going out there. And it's just like,
hey Jeff, what I mean by semi-retired is it means I don't get paid anything. I work without getting paid. That's all. That's literally all it means.
Okay, but because we know you're going to be on the golf course no matter what. That's right.
I get some golf in. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So are you ready for some lightning round questions? I'm going to go through all of them, but just some of them. They'll just be a quick one. All right. First one, there were some engineering ones. So ship it or polish it?
I'm a ship it.
Ship it. All right. Tech.
Wait, do I get to add color to my answer, or do I just have to answer?
No, you can totally add color. We got time.
I would say ship it as long as it's better than what you have out there today.
All right. Perfect. Next one, tech debt. Necessary evil or absolute deal breaker?
Necessary evil, and it kind of goes to the ship it problem. It's the same kind of issue. Yeah, it's a necessary evil.
All right. And
but wait, let me add one thing.
Do it.
You can't let it get too big.
Okay.
You got to deal with it a little bit at a time, but don't think it's going to be zero.
Yes, one bite at a time. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want you to blow up your spot here, but what's one question you ask every engineering candidate?
What's the biggest mistake you've made professionally?
There it is. Yeah. All right. You already answered this one with the remote office. Let's go to PagerDuty nightmare. Most memorable 3 a.m. system alert that you got from around Spiceworks.
Yeah, I'd say we broke the login flow.
Oh, okay. Oof.
So you literally couldn't log in.
All right. That sounds.
That required a hot fix, like in minutes.
I was going to say that was hot. All right, and you talked a little bit about this. So what startup scene in Austin do you prefer, 2006 or 2026?
Ooh, that's tough.
It's a coin toss, huh? You can say it's a
tie. I guess my thoughts are, in 2006, everybody worked in the office.
Yeah.
Which has benefits. Now, not many people work in the office, so it's different. I don't know if I'd say it's better.
Just different.
It might be better now because you've got AI and the remote work. Yeah, it might be a little better now.
All right. We'll go with that.
I'd say, all right, I convinced myself 26.
All right, there you go. All right, and we were talking about some of those late night deployments. What was your go-to beverage to keep the fuel going?
Oh, Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. All right.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to get into the tough ones.
Oh, boy.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yeah.
Yes. How about a taco?
I think it is. No.
No. Okay.
No. If it doesn't have bread, I don't count it as a sandwich.
All right. I think I know the answer to this one based on our Spice Wars experience, but Star Trek or Star Wars?
Ooh. I'd probably go Star Wars.
All right. Yes. And I didn't know. I remember the Spice Wars, our hackathon. We had a lot of good times with that too. This one's a trick. This one's a trick question. I don't know if they're trying to catch us up. What's your favorite color?
No. Purple. No,
there you
purple.
go. Everyone
That
wants
color in your background color looks good to me.
All right, that works. All right, a few more. How do you like your bacon cooked?
Well done.
Well done. Peanut butter, crunchy or smooth?
Smooth to keep a consistent texture with the bread.
Yes. And I think we all had that in the kitchen, the spoonful of peanut butter after the workouts. I think we all took turns. We were walking around with peanut butter lollipops, basically.
Yeah, give you a little jolt.
Yeah, after those workouts. All right, and this is the Sean Dolberg one. How do you pronounce GIF? GIF or GIF?
Oh boy, I pronounce it GIF because the graphics part of it is what resonates with me. It's what I did in graduate school, and so I'd pronounce it GIF.
All right.
I think the proper pronunciation is GIF, but most people that I know say GIF.
Still GIF, yeah.
I actually don't think that's the right way to say it, but that's how I say it.
All right, yeah, that's how it's the biggest debate in the community that's still raging. So
yeah.
Well, Greg, thank you so much. I gotta tell you, it's the same thing. I talked to Scott, Francis, and Jay as well. Please keep your calendar clear for November 2027 because that is going to be the 20th Spice World event.
Hey,
and we want to have the founders there for at least for one event. So please clear your calendar. But I got to tell you personally, thank you so much for everything that you've done creating this thing that's changed my life forever. Like, as you see, I'm still here. I'm still carrying the flame that you guys lit. So thank you so much for taking those leap of faith back in 2006. And thanks for taking this time, to reminisce about that.
You bet. Thanks a lot, Jeff. You're doing a great job, man.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Maybe I will get brave enough to play golf with you someday.
I'll take you out whenever you want.
All right, Greg. Take care.
All right. We'll see you.
See you.
Later, guys.
Bye. All right, thanks, Greg. I can tell you whether you're taking a swing at a startup, a kettlebell, or a golf ball, Greg Kattawar is the man you want guiding your hand. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode of the Spiceworks 20th Anniversary podcast series. Don't forget to check yourself before you wreck yourself, and we'll see you next time.